are now listening to the War Report Podcast Network.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the College Loop Podcast, episode 82 of the College Loop Podcast. And again, if you missed the announcement from the last episode or you missed the War Report from last week, we are officially part of the War Report family of podcasts. It's us, the War Report, and the Up-Tempo podcast. And it's a little College Loop After Dark. And I'm here with Daniel. Daniel, how you doing, buddy?
Dylan, I'm very, very good. Thank you for waiting up for me. It's a little late over here, but, it's all right. We're thriving here on the Loop, and we're talking receivers today. So one of the most important parts of a modern-day offense, so I'm so excited to get into it.
Yeah, and no biggie waiting for you, bud. I love not sleeping. It's one of the greatest things of being grown up is not sleeping and then feeling groggy in the morning. So that's going to be a fun church service tomorrow.
Oh,
whenever I am about to pass out. And if anyone's got to ask, I'm just praying. Don't worry.
Right.
But yeah, you kind of put it out there already. We are talking about the wide receiver position, one of those positions that Hugh Freeze really put the hammer down and really went after in the transfer portal. And I mean, he got some dudes at wide receiver. And just to talk about a few of them, we'll talk about a little bit more about them in a second. Jair Shorter, Shane Hooks, Caleb Burton, Nick Mardner were the big four that came through. And we're only doing wide receivers. No tight ends, not yet. They're going to happen. Me and Daniel have matching jerseys for that episode.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But, I mean, going into the season, it's a big question on how good can this Hugh Freeze-led passing attack be? And the fact of the matter, it starts with the quarterback. But up until a certain point, we're not going to know who the quarterback is probably until August at the very earliest, I feel like. And at that, even like late August, we might have a season where we don't hear who the starting quarterback is until their name is set on the Jumbotron.
Yeah.
Like we have no idea how this quarterback battle is going to go, and we only have until I think fall camp comes around until we can find out. But Daniel, start off with you. Who are you looking at in this wide receiver room to really show out and show up at a position that Auburn has not really had the best traction with in the past? And I'll talk about Auburn pass receivers in a second, but I'll let you answer that real quick.
I've been rocking with Nick Mardner since the day that he announced he was transferring to the Tigers. All through spring ball, he proved me right. So I don't see a reason to switch up on the guy now. I think that he's going to be – I'm not going to commit to the idea of a 1,000-yard receiver just yet, but I'm expecting 750 yards and 9 touchdowns from my boy.
Yeah, and you stick with your guns. I'm going to stick with mine too. Camden Brown is my dude. He has been ever since I first saw him play, dude. He is legit. And you brought Nick Mardner. He's 6'6" monster of a human being. At 6'6", you should not be running that fast as Nick Mardner does. It's ridiculous. But Camden Brown, a real go up and get a receiver, coming in at 6'3", 203. And I mean, also got to add in the fact he was a two-time. I'm forgetting the wide receiver award in college football.
It's slipping my mind too. I've won so many in NCAA 14.
Yeah, okay. NCAA 14, he was my two-time Blitnikoff Award winner. So I kind of got to rock with him for that reason and that reason alone. But if I had to pick someone like that, I would have been a little bit more like sure of, or someone after Camden Brown. I have to go with the 2 transfers that Auburn have gotten most recently. Not Caleb Burton, because I think Caleb Burton is going to be a backup for at least this season, and then maybe emerge in 2024. But Shane Hooks and Jair Shorter are 2 guys that Auburn is really going to have to look at whenever they're looking for a guy down the field at any level of the defense. There we go, any level of the defense, because those 2 guys are just amazing. And you could probably talk about the level of talent they played against. One was at UNT and one was at Jackson State. But their athletic prowess that they own and show off on the field. I mean, Jair Shorter was called the touchdown machine at North Texas. And Shane Hooks just has the swagger that you want. That my favorite picture of him is something I've put on the thumbnail a lot. Is a picture of him shrugging with the football in his hand. just because that picture is so cold.
That is
And
cool.
I'm imagining a wide receiver room or a starting wide receiver. It's those three with, of course, the tight end. Camden Brown, Shane Hooks, and Jair Shorter, I feel like is probably going to be your best starting lineup for the Auburn Tigers. And honestly, with that lineup, it's kind of hard for me to go with the whole 1,000-yard receiver because you got to share that ball.
Oh yeah.
And Auburn's wide receiver core has been so underrated. And I mean, I don't know why. And I think you could probably blame the quarterback. So you don't know who's going to play at quarterback. But that wide receiver room right there is probably one of the best Auburn has had in a hot minute. And to talk about that hot minute, so let's go. Last year, 2022, Javarius Johnson with 493 yards, 3 touchdowns. And the year before that, Kobe Hudson, 2021, 580 yards. Seth Williams in 2020, 760. 2019, Seth Williams is 830. And I'm just going to split up here. And this is the last time Auburn had a wide receiver within 100 yards of 1,000 was in 2013 with 902 yards, 7 touchdowns for Sammy Coates. And if you're talking about that 2013 team, who was, I think, running the ball 40 times a game, can almost have a 1,000-yard receiver, this Auburn can.
Sure.
And I know that Sammy Coates was probably the only wide receiver Nick Marshall really trusted to catch the ball. The miracle of Jordan Hare was a great play. I've watched it.
Yeah.
I actually watched it today in front of my girlfriend and her Georgia fan parent as well, just to see if her TV worked. I was like, I got to see how good the game looks. I was like, so I'll play this real quick. Just to see, I never really trust Ricardo Lewis with catching the ball because that was like a one in the lifetime thing. But 2015, he did lead Auburn in receiving. But Darvin Adams was probably the last big time receiver Auburn really had, who in back-to-back years as like the number one guy had 2009, he had 997 yards receiving and 10 touchdowns. And then 2010, the year Cam Newton, did what he did, Darvin Adams had 963 yards and 7 tutties. And that both those teams, big rushing, big run the ball first teams, because those are all three of those teams I just mentioned are Gus Malzahn teams. If you're telling me that Gus Malzahn can almost produce a 1,000-yard receiver, I think Hugh Freeze and the offense he brings in can.
Yeah.
But on the bright side, or on the other side of things, I think Auburn right now has a very loaded wide receiver room that's not getting talked about, where people are going to really want that ball to get shared. So just asking you, Daniel, what are the odds, percentage-wise, that Auburn can have a 1,000-yard receiver in 2023?
That's a good question. I'm feeling about like 65%, somewhere in that range, to where I think it probably will happen, but I wouldn't be shocked if it didn't. Just because, like you said earlier, if a team that ran the ball 40 times a game in 2013 could get within 100 yards of one, which that's one pretty decent game away. So that's not as much as it sounds like. That could be one play. So I think that this team can, and I think they will. But at the same time, it wouldn't shock me if like this room has so many pieces and you spread the ball around so much that no one really gets there. But I think someone will get within 100 yards for sure.
Yeah, of course, you're looking at just to go past the transfers. Just talking about Camden Brown, you talk about Nick Martin or Jair Shorter, Shane Hooks. You got to bring like Javarius Johnson is still going to get some snaps. Coy Moore, who Tarr would probably pick in this situation, is going to get snaps. Just from top to bottom, this wide receiver room is going to be battling out for key plays, key snaps, and battling out to see who can catch the ball more. And again, I think Camden Brown is going to be that dude, just strictly because of his athleticism, his speed. He's a go up and get a guy. And when a quarterback that you can't really trust with the ball right now, we don't know how Peyton Thorne could obviously just come out here and just ball out. We don't know. But when a quarterback really needs a guy to throw the ball to, Camden Brown fits that mold of an emergency target wide receiver just because 6'3", fast, strong, can jump to the moon type guy. And I mean, even to go with the touchdown point of view, if Auburn can get a 1,000-yard receiver, how many touchdowns can he get? The last time Auburn had a wide receiver get more than 4 touchdowns was in 2019.
Really?
When Seth Williams was getting the ball every when they couldn't run the ball, they would just throw it to Seth Williams. And that's when he got 8 touchdowns on 830 yards. And I mean, before that was 5, 5, 3, 3, 4, and then 2013 Sammy Coates got 7. You very rarely have seen this Auburn team the past 10 years get a wide receiver to get more than 4 touchdowns. And when it happens, it's a rare occasion. And I mean, if you look at that, 2013, 2019, 2 of Auburn's best years in that last 10-year period. Not to count 2017, but I think 2017 was more of a balanced year because that was Jared Stidham. And I think that goes into the point, if Peyton Thorne is that quarterback, I think we can pretty much, I don't want to say guarantee, but I think when you said 60%, I would say a 1,000-yard receiver with a Peyton Thorne at quarterback probably moves up to your 75 to 80. Okay. I think it's very likely to happen because I think Peyton Thorne is definitely going to find his guy at wide receiver. And I think the ball is definitely going to get distributed a whole lot more than we've seen in the past. And I mean, last year Auburn had their thing. It was, we have Jarquez Hunter, we have Tank Bigsby, we're going to run it down your throat.
Yep.
Because Robbie Ashford has a banged up shoulder and he's young and he can't really throw the ball that well. So we're going to run the ball down your throat with either Robbie, Jarquez, Tank, Damari, anybody who can run the ball, they're going to run the ball. Exactly. And I mean, just looking at that, I mean, I could definitely go deeper into the wide receiver room, but I think that 6 that I named, I think, or 6 or 7, are pretty much going to be your main rotation. And I mean, come back next week when we do the tight ends, because I think the tight ends are definitely battling out for some key receiving yards as well, especially with Rivaldo Fairweather coming from FIU. But yeah, just let us know in the comments. Can Auburn or will Auburn have a 1,000-yard receiver in 2023? If so, who's it going to be? Give me the whole stat line. Why don't you? Just, if it's Camden Brown, go like this, say like 1,000 or like 1,110 tutties, just something like that. But we're actually going to go into a little recruiting that's been going on, and per the usual here, On3 has given 2 predictions for 4-star cornerback Jalen Crawford to come to Auburn. He's a 6-foot corner, 180 pounds, from Parkview High School in Lilburn, Georgia. I hope I said that right. Number 15 corner in the class of 2024. Number 21 prospect overall in the state of Georgia. And I've watched some film on this kid. Ooh, he can play man defense like nobody's business. And Daniel, I don't know how much of his film you've been watching, because I think you have more of a life than I do when it comes to recruiting, because I like to delve real deep into the film. Just what would it mean to Auburn just to get another defensive back in this class?
Well, before I even get into what it would mean to get a defensive back, just to get this guy, I just looked this up because I was curious. Lilburn, Georgia is a 58-minute drive from Athens, Georgia. So Hugh Freeze would be going straight in the Bulldog territory and picking off a guy that they for sure want. Now, beefing up this defensive secondary is huge. And if we get our 5th 4-star defensive back into this class, man, that's exciting. Make it the fact that you're taking away a guy that Kirby Smart wants in his defense as well. The cake gets even sweeter. So I would love for this guy to take his talents to the Plains, and hopefully there's something to these predictions.
And not even to let alone the fact that when you go to 24/7, the 3 schools that he has the warmest interest with are Florida, LSU, and Auburn.
Well, he wants to go.
When you talk about DBU, I mean, LSU is right up as probably your 1A or just 1 with Ohio State, and then Florida is not far behind. No. And just the fact that Auburn is up there battling out, going in Georgia's backyard and trying to steal a big-time corner prospect from 2 historically great defensive back schools is awesome. Sure. And you already mentioned it. He'd be the 4-star defensive back commit, and that being Amon Lane, Jaden Lewis, Kinsley Faustin, And then if you can bring in Jalen Crawford, I think Zach Etheridge and Wesley McGriff, Crime Dog, are killing it. And
Yeah.
we always talk about how great of a recruiter Cadillac is. And, I mean, he is. Cadillac is probably the best recruiter on the planet. I don't think Wesley McGriff and Zach Etheridge get near the hype that they should be getting.
I don't think
Because
so
those
either.
are your two top dog recruiters right there. And just the fact that I think Auburn can arguably be in, I don't want to say in the top 3 or top 5 DBUs, but they're definitely up there in the top 10. Just because the when I think of DBUs, I don't go as like quantity, I go as quality in the NFL, because that's just how I am. Because I don't care if Ohio State's produced like 3 defensive backs in the past like 2 drafts, but one of them starts and the other 2 were like cut because they couldn't perform well in practices. Auburn has secretly been one of the better schools at producing defensive backs. I mean, even Daniel Thomas, who's like a 5th-round pick, has been showing out for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Shout him out because it was his birthday yesterday, as this comes out. But yeah, just be a huge pickup. You get a guy who, from what I read from his recruiting profile, he probably had to sit out a little bit just to get molded. But from what we've seen from Wes McGriff and Zach Etheridge and what Auburn can do as a whole, he's going to be a great corner for Auburn if he comes. That's a little knock on wood moment. If he comes to Auburn, he'll for sure be a great pickup. And now to go from a guy who's being predicted to come to Auburn to a guy who is just listed Auburn as top 7, Casey Poe, big 4-star offensive lineman. I believe he's a guard because that's what interior offensive lineman means. Has Auburn in his top 7 and also has commitment date announced, where he'll be announcing on his Instagram. So if you want to go see that, it'll be on July 12th. I don't know if he said the time. I don't think he said a time. Just go follow him on Instagram, I guess, and you'll find out when he goes live from there. But yeah, Casey Poe, big 6'4" and a half, 290 pounds, from Lindale High School in Lindale, Texas. He's number 6. He's the number 6 interior offensive lineman in the class of 2024, number 20 overall prospect in the state of Texas. And the schools he has listed here are OU, Clemson, Texas Tech, LSU, Georgia, and Bama. But sadly, he is currently CB'd and predicted by On3 to go to Alabama. And if Casey Poe sounds familiar, if you follow Walker White on Twitter, Casey Poe has been tweeted at on multiple occasions by Walker White as his potential next roommate or his future roommate, one of the two, which is hilarious. and it's funny because you talk about we did talk about recruiters at Auburn. That Walker White's not even at Auburn. I feel he's one of Auburn's biggest recruiters, and that's just funny in its own right.
Yep.
But you also got to mention the last little blurb on his tweet, which is the best part of his entire tweet, might surprise some people.
That's what really gets me going because, I mean, if you see a highly rated prospect go to not so much now as a couple years ago, but still Oklahoma, Clemson, LSU, Georgia, or Bama, that's not a surprise at all. So I'm thinking he's either going to stay home and go to Texas Tech or he's coming to the Plains.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think you can turn down Walker White. He's the future quarterback. He's gonna have the nice dorm in South Donahue.
Exactly.
You gotta want to be his roommate.
Without a doubt.
And I think just the fact that it says he's currently CB'd by 24/7 to go to Alabama, and he's currently predicted by On3 to the biggest recruiting sites that are out right now, besides Rivals. I need to go see what Rivals has him at right now. And he has those two things going for him right now. And he says, might surprise some people. That might have some Bama fans a little upset about the whole tweet. He's like, well, I've just been told by 24/7 and On3 that you're coming to Alabama, but now you're saying you're going to surprise some people? What does that mean? So it'd be huge. I think he'd be the first offensive lineman in the class of 2024. And with his rating, dude, Auburn is going to have some 5-stars by the time this 2024 class is up, and not even going to get the 5-star commits yet. You're going to have 4-stars who are going to build off of what they did in the previous season, get that 4-star, and then they're going to pop off and get that 5th star. And I mean, I think Auburn is currently at 47th in the country. I think I looked at it last.
47th.
And I wish I would have gone to the class calculator on there on 24/7 and just put in Casey Poe and Jalen Crawford, all these guys that we keep hearing about, just to see where exactly will this team end up in the recruiting class. And I think top 10 is getting more and more like possible. Even if
I think so too.
if Clemson's pulling the number one linebackers and George is getting the number one player overall the class, I think Auburn is sneakily just getting all these big time 4-stars because 4-stars can turn into 5-stars.
Sure.
And even then, I don't think there's like a huge difference between a 5-star and a 4-star.
No.
But I think there's like a huge difference between a 3-star and a 5-star just because of the level of talent they play at.
Yeah.
But to a certain extent, I feel like when you watch, like, there's so many corners in football in general, in high school football.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many high schools, so many corners, and there's so many offensive linemen. I mean, we saw it last year with Connor Liu. Connor Liu is what should have been a 5-star, but just since they just can't really rate offensive linemen that well on those sites, that he was a 4-star, and he's one of the biggest pickups of the class. I just think with what's the word I'm looking at, the inflation of corners, just like there's 700 corners in high school football that are gonna go to college in the next year. You can't rate all those guys.
No.
And it'd be like fair or like even or potato, you know. I think Jalen Crawford could easily move up to that 4-star, and I think or that 5-star. I think he'd be Auburn's top-rated corner just by getting him.
Mm-hmm.
And it would just be huge if Auburn could find a way to pull him in.
Sure.
And Casey Poe is the same exact way. Auburn has had woes at the offensive line since I can frickin' remember. And to bring in a dude like Casey Poe, who has been a monster from all the film I've seen, it'd be huge. And also, if Auburn can bring in, I don't know, we talked about wide receivers earlier in the show, Perry Thompson and Cameron Coleman. You'd bring in, and you could also bring in Jamarian Burnett. You're bringing in an entire offense coming in 2024.
Yep.
I know we like to talk about Hugh Freeze on his recruiting, but holy crap. Just quarterback, future running back, 2 future receivers, and your beef on the O-line. I love Hugh Freeze's recruiting.
I do too. You can anyone can say what they want about him as the off the field stuff. It is what it is, but this recruiting, man, like it's hard to not get excited about the trajectory of Auburn football, and the fact that that people are still sleeping on it. It's one of those things like people slept on Auburn in 2013 and they damn near won the Natty. So people slept on Auburn in 2017 after that LSU game. I saw a lot of stuff. Oh, Auburn's going to go 7-5. Yeah, they were the SEC runner-up and most loaded SEC ever. So
yeah,
say what you want, but
you can't forget 2010.
No, you can't.
And I feel like if one year you compare this team to 2013 is looking like a big comparison that we keep bringing it back to, just because 2012 you had a very big down year, like a very bad down year. From going from Gene Chizik, who went 3-9, and even in 3-9, I go back to the wide receiver room. I think Auburn produced a pretty decent season. Yes, 2012, Emory Blake.
That team had talent.
789 yards from a team that went 3-9, and yeah, he only had 3 touchdowns, but that's a 3-9 team. But that guy, Emory Blake, put up more yards in a 3-9 season than Auburn has put up in the last 3 seasons. Which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But just the level of recruiting that Hugh Freeze is at right now. And, I mean, we don't know how this class is going to end up. Auburn could just end up not getting any more commits from this class. Knock on wood again. But just if all these guys who are being predicted to come to Auburn, if Hugh Freeze can flip these guys that we're all wanting him to flip, there's an easy discussion to make that Hugh Freeze is already a better recruiter than Gus Malzahn.
Yeah.
And he didn't have to do much to be a better recruiter than the last campaign to come through here. No. But just what he's doing right now, I think if he can keep this up throughout the remainder of his coaching career at Auburn, Auburn's going to be in the national title contention within 3 seasons with him.
One of the most shocking things to me is how Harsin's 2022 class was top 20.
and half of them are gone.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're gonna move on from because now we've said his name, so now we have to move on. So he don't come back. We can't say his name too much. He'll come back. But yeah, next show, the Tuesday show, get ready because we are previewing the first SEC game on the schedule as Auburn travel to Texas A&M. And boy, howdy, that's going to be a fun game to watch. It's going to be a fun game to talk about. So get ready for that next show. But we are going to move on to basketball, men's basketball, that is, where Tahaad Pettiford is setting Auburn up to have a really good and really big point guard in the year 2025. And that's assuming Aiden Holloway already has his great year and he goes number 1 overall in the draft. And here comes Tahaad Pettiford comes in. And, I mean, this dude just got first team in the Nike EYBL, which is Elite Youth Basketball League. I guessed and got that right. So 10 points to me. And he averaged 16.7 points per game, 3.1 rebounds, and 3.1 assists in a league full of the nation's top prospects. And I believe it's under the age of 17. So a lot of these guys are going to be in this next upcoming class. And the only commit Auburn has right now in the 2025 or 2024 recruiting class got first team in that. Tahaad Pettiford is going to be the truth, and all I can hope and pray is he stays committed to the Tigers.
Yeah, Auburn has lost 2 commits so far in their 2024 class. Peyton Marshall and
LeBaron
Philon. Probably due to Wes Flanagan heading over to Ole Miss. So that's kind of sad to see, but it really just goes to show you how big of an assistant coach, let me restart that. How big of a deal assistant coaches in basketball really are. Some people seem to think that they aren't, and I just don't know where they get that impression. But anyway, yeah, so hopefully he does stay committed, and hopefully he can pull Walker White and convince some people to come with him.
And I mean, Auburn could still very much be in the running for LeBaron Philon. So fingers crossed that he comes back to Auburn. And I don't know if has Peyton Marshall committed anywhere yet. I feel like he committed to Ole Miss. He may have committed to Ole Miss.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, but yeah, if Tahaad Pettiford could pull a Walker White and be the lead recruiter for the 2024 class, that'd be awesome. And for a class that I feel like may need it. I feel like Tahaad Pettiford's a pretty good acquisition as it is for a team that I think is going to probably be very heavy in the portal again going into the next season. I feel like that is now like the new meta. It's like, if you can't get in all these other guys, all these blue bloods they're going after, we can go get like a mid-league team and go pick up a big guy. I mean, we've seen it the last couple of years. Janiah Broome had a great season after coming from Murray State, and it's not a mid-tier, it's a blue blood pulling a Walker Kessler from North Carolina. It was also a pretty big pickup from the transfer portal. But I mean, Tahaad Pettiford, this kid is going to be outstanding. He's going to be great, and I hate it, but he's going to be a one year rental really at point guard because he is too good not to be a 1 year and out player.
Yeah. So Peyton Marshall has not committed anywhere else, but he still has 6 predictions. No, excuse me, 1 prediction. Don't know how I got that mixed up. 1 crystal ball from 247 to go to Auburn. Yeah, I forgot how big this guy is. 6'11", 310 pounds. Good.
Yeah,
nice.
Dude might be playing the wrong sport. Maybe he's not. Maybe he's not. I'd like to have on both the hardwood.
Maybe he should play another kind of center as well.
Yeah, I don't know about center, but on the offensive line, he's a little too big for that. But I'm imagining. Could you imagine Gunnar Britton on the right side and Peyton Marshall on the left side?
We would have like 2,000-yard rushers.
I'm just imagining that would be awesome. Okay. That would be good Lord. All right, now to move on to the Diamond Baseball, making 2 big acquisitions to their team roster, coaching staff, and just go with all 3. Why not? So let's start off with Everett Tieford, named Auburn Baseball's pitching coach after Sean Rock I forgot his first name. Darren Schoenrock. There we go. Darren Schoenrock left the Tigers after 1 year to go spend more time with his family. Auburn immediately turns around, pulls in Everett Tieford, who, from my understanding, has a lot of expertise. And I don't know if it was coaching, but he had a lot of years in the MLB.
Yep.
And I know you have some information on Coach Tieford.
I do. So he has spent the past 6 seasons with the Chicago White Sox. First 4 years as a minor league pitching coordinator, and he was the minor league quality control coach for the White Sox in 2018. That's basically your coach that works with your prospects who are getting close to the major league level. Maybe they have the arm, but not quite the control. Maybe they need to add a little bit of time to their curve, something like that. That tends to be where you see a quality control coach come into play, hence the name quality control. He was the assistant pitching coordinator in 2019 and was promoted to assistant coordinator for the Chicago White Sox in 2020. So he has coached major league pitchers for a few seasons. He also played 4 seasons in the MLB. After going in the 12th round of the 2006 MLB draft, he spent the 2011 through 13 seasons with the Kansas City Royals, and in 2015 with the Rays. In his career, he was 3-5 with a 4.11 ERA and struck out 67 batters in 49 appearances. So, not too much time on the mound, but he made his mark in coaching. He's worked with notable prospects such as Dylan Cease, who finished second in Cy Young Award voting in the MLB in 2022. So he checks a lot of boxes for somebody that you would want coaching pitching at the highest amateur level in the world. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning. I mean, you said he played for the Kansas City Royals, and he was the pitching coach for the Chicago White Sox, which both of those teams have big Auburn blood running through them. If you know Frank Thomas, who now has a statue in front of Plainsboro Park, he was one of the greatest players to ever play the sport. He played for the Chicago White Sox, and of course, the Kansas City Royals had Bo Jackson. So maybe the MLB can return the favor back to us, so we return to them and give us a great pitching coach and hopefully a great pitching rotation going into next season. Something Auburn very much lacked after the injury of Joseph Gonzalez kind of sidelined him the entire season. And I have not heard official word yet, but as far as I know, Joseph Gonzalez has not committed to the MLB draft. So let's hope that Coach Tieford has Joseph Gonzalez by his side going into the 2024 season. That'd be great. That'd be great.
That would surely set him up for success.
Exactly, and I mean, bring in another guy who I don't think Tieford's going to be spending a lot of time with, but you pick up another transfer portal guy. I think you got one from UAB, one from Jackson State.
Yep.
And then there's another one that I'm forgetting about.
Was it the brand new one?
No, I'm about to bring him up in a second. I think there was 4 transfers. Talking about this guy, but let's just talk about this guy, Sam Mongeli, from a school I've never heard of until I wrote this stat up. Sacred Heart University, which is one of the coolest university names I've ever heard of. Mongeli plays third base or shortstop. It really depends. Last season had a fielding percentage of 929, which, based on how percentages work, I'm pretty sure that's really good.
Yes.
And looking at last season's stats, he batted a .402 with 20 home runs, 54 RBI, and he scored 81 runs last season. And I think he was a All-American, I believe.
Yeah.
I think I read that somewhere. Just a huge pickup for the Tigers, and it looks like if he played third base, that's your Cole Foster replacement right there. And if he can bomb it like Cole Foster can, I mean, we saw it in the SEC tournament. Cole Foster hates trees because he knocked some trees down when he sent that thing into left field in Huntsville. But 2 big pickups for the Auburn Tigers, both coaching and player wise. And do you have any words on Sam Mongeli?
In an interview with Auburn Undercover, he just said how excited he is to play for Auburn, basically. He loves the culture and he wants to go to Omaha. So,
And we would really much love to go back to Omaha too, Mongeli.
yes.
And Mongeli, that's Italian, right?
Yep.
So we have reason to believe this is the next Sonny D.
And if Auburn does go to Omaha, there will be an episode of the College Loop live from Rocco's, home of the famous College World Series Jello Shot Challenge. So if the Tigers make it to Omaha, we'll be there.
You can count on that. And I mean, we'll also have a review by our intern Colin or one of us at some point of the new Sunny D drink, which you can only exclusively get in Huntsville. So we'll hopefully get that soon, or we're still debating if we want to save it. So it's up in the air. But that's all for sports news, really. Other athletic news. If you're free July 3rd, which is Monday, tomorrow, as this comes out, it's the Auburn takeover on this SEC network, and I have the schedule right here in front of me. If any of this excites you, and if you plan on staying awake for 24 hours, here you go. At 11 p.m. tonight, the Auburn A-Day game will come on. 1 a.m., you have Auburn volleyball versus Alabama. 3 a.m., you have gymnastics versus Arkansas. 4:30 of SEC storied Miracles on the Plains. 5:30 in the morning, men's basketball versus Arkansas. 7:30 a.m., volleyball versus Creighton. 9:30 a.m., baseball versus LSU, which I presume is going to be the run rule of the national champions. So that's a fair assumption, right? 12:30 of SEC Equestrian Championship. 2:30 of the gymnastics versus LSU, which is Auburn beating Livy Dunn. 4 p.m., men's basketball versus Tennessee. 6 p.m., softball versus Alabama. And to wrap it all up, at 8 p.m., you have Cadillac's first win as Auburn interim head coach.
I knew it.
It would take on the Texas A&M Aggies. So a great day if you just want to sit down and watch 24 hours of Auburn winning. And it's not really a day Auburn fans can be used to as of late.
I love the volleyball love.
Yeah, it was 2 volleyball games, right?
2 volleyball games, yep.
That's crazy. You have 1 softball game on that list and 2 volleyball. You have gymnastics, shout, and equestrian too. Shout out women's sports.
Yep.
And I wouldn't mind a rerun of the 2021 Tennessee game, women's basketball, when they beat the number 14 in the country.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, because you probably hear me in the stands as we rush the corner. But yeah, that's all we have time here for today. Daniel, let everybody know they can love you, find you, and support you.
You can follow me on Twitter at Daniel J. Locke. You can find my written work for the Auburn Wire, or if you follow me on Twitter, I've accepted a position as 1819 News Auburn beat reporter. So pretty soon there will be some pretty good content there, and I don't take it lightly that I'm 20 years old and a beat writer for an SEC team. So just thank you everyone for your support.
And of course, I'm Dylan Larck at Tank on Twitter. If you're watching, it's right there. It's also in the description below, so you can go copy and paste that. And while you're at it down there, go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. Leave some questions for us to go answer on the show. We love answering questions. Gregorio, dude, I love you. You left us a potential theoretical Thursday, and I love it. It was about Kerryon Johnson, and if I could talk about Kerryon Johnson every show, I would. Just because he is so good. And I want to thank everybody who has been subscribing to the channel. We have grown exponentially in the last few days, and we can't thank y'all enough for the love and support we've been getting. We're at 367 as I'm recording this.
Wow.
We're almost to 400. I don't know what we're going to do at 400. Daniel's already danced. So if you want to go follow our TikTok as well and go see Daniel dance. I've been rewatching it every day because the one dance move he does, and you'll know when you watch it, is very funny. But you can also follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And if you want to listen to us, you have us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Amazon Music, and basically everywhere you get your podcasts. But with that, this has been the College Loop Podcast.